Hello, I'm Kim Moffat. I'm the Jack Layton Chair. I go by the pronouns he, him, and I'm one of the co-organizers for today's event. I'll begin with a land acknowledgement. If we were meeting in person, we'd be able to acknowledge the land that we're collectively gathering on to learn together. Instead, we're all joining virtually. We're all acknowledging the land where I'm situated. We continue this practice because we are all treaty people. We have a responsibility to honor Indigenous peoples' ongoing kinship to the land and be reminded of our treaty obligations. Hello, I'm Kim Moffat. I'm the Jack Layton Chair. I'm joining from Toronto, located in Treaty 13, Williams Treaty and Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon speaks to the land that covers the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Seaway. The treaty initially between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe bound each nation to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent non-Indigenous people have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. As members of X University, we endeavor to take action to work towards the troubling colonial relationships throughout our programming, engagement, and reimagining the university and community relations so that we can create a more Indigenous focused and defined environment. This event is organized by the School of Disability Studies, the Unifor National Chair, and the Jack Layton Chair. Thanks also to the Toronto Association for Democracy in China and RU Stand With Hong Kong, who have helped organize the event. Specific thanks to Salman Khan, Keegan Hobson, Lorena Ryan, and Sarah Fumley, who each helped out with this event. Kike Roach, the National Chair for Unifor, will join us later on. Some of you are joining us through Zoom and others through YouTube. Welcome to all. I would like to, the proceedings of the event are Joy will present, Moon from RU Stands With Hong Kong student group here at X University will respond, and then it will be open to a Q&A, at which point Kiki will join us. Okay, no further delay. Let me introduce Joy. Joy Luck is the first blind lawyer and the only solicitor in Hong Kong. She was conferred the Master of Law in Human Rights, Postgraduate Certificate in Law, and Bachelor of Law in Hong Kong. Upon completion of her master degree in Human Rights Law, she worked for the Equal Opportunities Commission as an investigator, handling complaints of discrimination and harassment on grounds of disability, sex, pregnancy, and family status. She was admitted as a solicitor to the High Court in 2010 and accredited as a mediator in 2013. Upon private practice for several years, she worked as a compliance officer, legal counsel for an NGO called Dialogue in the Dark, which aimed at promoting the right of, quote, people of differences, unquote, or otherly called persons with disabilities, from 2019 to 2021. Joy has been at the front lines of the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong, and I'm so very pleased to introduce you, Joy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Okay, hi everybody. I'm lucky to have a chance to share my experiences as a people of differences. We use the term people of differences to indicate those people with disabilities. We think that we are not disabled. We are still able to do many things. Many people think that we always need help and need assistance by others or from others. But actually, we believe that with sufficient facilities or guideline provided to us, we can do as much as we can, just like those persons without disability. So today I'm going to present my roots in Hong Kong before I came here in Canada in late December 2021. Now I'm now a refugee applicant. I have never thought about that I will be a refugee and in one day. But anyway, it is good for me to share my experience to you all now. Let's go to the PowerPoint. Then the first page is just like a background of my I have got the master degree and something other else that has been mentioned by Ken, so it is okay. And then we go to the next line, and then you can see some pictures. Then I am still the first blind lawyer in Hong Kong, and then was the only one solicitor in Hong Kong up until now. I hope there will be more new comers for the profession of solicitor in Hong Kong, but I don't think there is still any rule of law right now. I hope the situation will change to the direction of democracy and real rule of law, but I don't have such confidence in this moment. Also, this is just like some pictures here. As you know, I could not see the picture. If there are any interesting photos that you are particularly interested in, please just let me know. I can explain to you because I could not see the photo. I can just remember what kind of photo as presented in the slides, but I really don't know what is this. And then we can go to the next page. And then my background, the background, of course, has been has been told by Ken. I hold a Bachelor of Law and PCLL master degree, and I am also an accredited mediator, and for about 8 years. So I can do some something like legal tasks, and also conduct a mediation for any parties that require us to do, and they have such demand for mediation. Such like in Hong Kong now, the court tends to use mediation as a way to resolve their problem rather than going strictly to a trial. And then we can go to the next page. And then my background is, and then during the 2019 and 2020 pro-democracy movement, initially it was an anti-amendment to the extradition bill. The bill allowed the criminal or suspect to be extradited from Hong Kong to China, and we had a strong belief that such amendment would allow the Chinese government to send legally, according to their law, to those who have different opinions or who are against the Chinese government's policy to China for trial or for custody. So we did not think that such tactics or such measure would be suitable in Hong Kong. But unless there is a fair and comparatively trial inequity. We would have some point for negotiation with China whether such bill or such amendment to extradition would be accepted by those people in Hong Kong. And then we can go to the next page. Page 5, my personal background. And then because of I was born prematurely, so that I suffered from many problems, including my eyesight. I lost my eyesight before I was at the age of 20, and then I studied in a school for the blind called Evening School for the Blind in Hong Kong. It is the only one blind school in Hong Kong. At that time, the module or the curriculum were the same as those others mainstream schools, but we did learn a lot on orientation and mobility and other basic training such as spotting and other. So I was lucky. I have such intensive training at that school. So this is my personal background. But what is the reason that lead me to want to be a lawyer is I will explain in the next slide. Then go to the next slide. And then so this is and then at that time I know that this is a very good picture from a movie called The Truth, and is starring by Andy Lau, a very famous pop star in Hong Kong, but he is now aged 61, maybe, yes, 61. So at the time he was young, he just acted as a lawyer in Hong Kong, a barrister. And then after seeing that movie, I thought that in one day, if I could be a lawyer, it would be very good for me because I suffer from discrimination many times. At that time, I was unable to enter elementary school, and then so I always believe that justice would be the utmost importance for us to enjoy real freedom or an environment without discrimination. So I treasure the value of democracy and freedom of expression. But at that time, and when I was given a chance to take a law degree, it was very difficult for me because I could not read the textbook, even though most legislations and case law were available online. I had to scan page by page. Law textbook had more than thousands of pages, and for each semester, we had to study more than 5 or 6 books. So I spent lots of time in reading that kind of law and scanning. So many preparation works. So, but it was okay for me because I learned how to be tough. So, and we can go to the next slide. And then actually, I found that I was a target of discrimination because there was no real system and check and balance system for Hong Kong. The government, had a race system for monitoring discrimination. We have Equal Opportunity Commission, but its task just focuses on mediation rather than going to the trial, and then it was not quite efficient from my point of view. And I encountered a situation in courtroom that we had to submit our bundle of documents 3 days in advance of the trial. But suddenly, when I was in a room 3 minutes before the hearing, the opposite team of the party just gave me a new set of papers. They said that they would like to change their submissions and the skeleton argument. Oh, I told them, it was impossible for you to do that because we have already submitted our bundle of documents. They said, I'm sorry, we will continue to do this. We will let the trial judge to make his decision on that. I was nervous because I could not see any of the paper. So the situation was quite embarrassing. And eventually, Shurong, and then okay, we can go to next slide, and then how my role so that I don't want to explain a lot in minutes, and then I just know that I will sometime I will initiate legal actions against the government, and will write a letter, attending forum, participating demonstration, or have public speech, something like that. I will explain a little bit more later so that we can go to the next page. And then public speaking, and then I had sometime I was invited to have public speaking, and then at the 6-month anniversary of the 721 incident in Hong Kong. The 721 incident is that some gangster with their white shirt, and then they attacked many people in the district of Yunnan without any reason. So you can see from the YouTube that many people were attacked. I was living at that time. I lived in Yunnan, so I was invited to have a speech, and in the 6-month anniversary in the Westwell station in Yunnan, so that we can play a little bit of the radio. The guy introducing me is the chair of the Yunnan District Council, Mr. Wong. He is saying that I was in the front line monitoring the action and brutality of the police. And then many people, especially for those government officials, do have eyes, but they could not see. But he said, I don't have eyes, but I still could see clearly. So I just want the crowd not to be silent. Because if we do not exercise our right to vote, and then we could not forbid some guy to win as a president of our law society, because he was the former president of law society, was a legislative counselor. We believed he led the gangster to attack people in 721 incident. So okay, we can stop it, and then thank you. And then this is one task that I could do is to have public speaking, urging people to cast their vote, and for the proposed for the election proposed to be taken place in September 2020. But, the Chinese government just canceled the election, and then they changed the whole system. So many people had their rights for election deprived of. So it is a tragedy, and I think our basic rights was deprived. So we will go to next page. Okay, we can go to next page, 10. And then the other major incident was in 831 incident in outside or inside the Prince Edward subway station. And then at that time, many police locked the subway station and entered into the train, attacked many passengers there. And we believe, or it was alleged that some people were killed by the police, but actually up until now, the police and the subway company were reluctant to provide all the CCTV videos, and they just provide capture of screen so many at the end of each month we will get it in the outside the Prince Edward subway station for just a memorial ceremony. So a very simple one. So we can have a video, play the video first. So you can see at that time, it was the 30th of April 2020. Many people were there, and they just have their bouquet of flower to those we believe that who died in the 831 incident. So you can see me, and then I just have a bunch of my flower just outside the subway station. And then some passing by just help me to leave the scene, because there you can see many police officers were there. You can see the lady was very angry because the police were in fact obstruct the road rather than us. So we can go to next page. Apart from public speaking, I will attend that kind of memorial ceremony on the 831 incident. So that we can next 11, and then I will sometime during the I know that in 2020 we people in Hong Kong have our candlelight memorial ceremony for the June 4th Tiananmen incident in Hong Kong. In 2020, we were not allowed to have such usual memorial ceremony in Victoria Park, but we did have that kind of ceremony for more than 31 years. So at that time, on that day, I took a radio and then urging the foreign government to take actions, because we people in Hong Kong are not sufficient and not strong enough to stop the government to do anything harming our basic right. So you can see the picture. This picture was taken on 2019 and candlelight memorial ceremony, and then in Victoria Park. So we can go. So I just wrote something on my Facebook, apart from taking the video. So we can go to next slide, 12. Also, you can see some rules. So this is the rules that I wrote on my Facebook, urging others to help us. So just like Ukraine, I believe that without the assistance from others, Ukrainians could not fight against a big giant such like China or Russia. So we treasure the basic right. This is the core value of global core value, including Canada. So I think anybody here treasure this basic value of democracy and freedom of expression. And then we can go to next page. And then okay, there's some pictures still here. And then we can go to 14. And then apart from direct participation, if I found that it was a suitable situation, I would play music. I also was invited to join a music video with Tommy Yun, a pop star in Hong Kong, but he was arrested. And then in that video, many people, in that music video, more than half of the participants, that more than 10 people are now in jail. So I would play, if I was in the scene, I will play music so that you can see the video that I played Glory to Hong Kong in front of the police. So it was very, very dangerous because I would be arrested, but I don't mind anyway, because I want to strengthen the courage and the morale of the people who were participating in the demonstration, so that we can play the music. I can play the video. So the slogan that we had is Free Hong Kong and Revolution in Time. So we can go to the next page. And then I will participate. I will participate in many demonstrations, and then directly and provide legal advice to them. And then maybe you can see. Can you play this video? If you cannot, and I know that on the 15th slide 15, we have a video, but we should play on YouTube. So maybe we can skip it. But actually, just to show that in Cantonese that I did join and many demonstration directly, and went to the front line to provide legal advice to those students. Especially, I was in the Polytechnic University and the Chinese University. It was very likely that I would be charged with rioting, but at that time, many young people were there. Most of them were 18, 15, and even 14. So I really want to help them, but actually I don't want to be their burden. But I still want to try my best to help those people because they are the younger generation. If our generation did a lot, and I don't think they will suffer so much in this moment. So we can go to the next slide. 16. Again, we can see on the same day, that I have talked that I made a public speech in the subway station on the 6th anniversary of the 721 incident. I said that, maybe one day the police will say that my white king will be an offensive weapon attacking those police officers. At that time, they paper sprayed on me without any warning because they alleged that my white king did attack them just 2 hours after my public speaking, so that we can play this video. But if we can start from 2 minutes and 40 seconds, it will be better because we can save time. Thank you. So okay, we can start here. A lady was hit. I don't know.
There's actually people at the back yelling at the police, saying that they're triad members and gangsters. Now he came into the park and is trying to, I guess, getting people out. They're flashing lights against reporters. There are some that is actually getting people inside the park, I think attempting on something else. There's no one provoking them tonight. They just suddenly run into the park and then shit happens. I will not say that, I'm gonna record this as well. I will not suicide if anything happens to me. If I just disappear for more than 4 days straight, please call someone or call for help. I will not suicide. My name is Anne. Just wait. A woman just wait. He just sprayed. He sprayed the blind lawyer. He just sprayed someone. He sprayed another person. He just sprayed another person. He just sprayed someone. He just sprayed someone. He just sprayed a blind person. He sprayed a person believed to be blinded, and it was a pink coat, I think it was protester or someone. She was having a blind stick on her. She was blinded.
Okay, we can see the scene that I was not given any warning because I really don't know the reason that why they used pepper spray on me, but actually it was the normal situation that at that time many people were hurt without any warning, but it was against the police general order under the police force ordinance. So we can go to the next slide, and then we can have some situation. I was kicked by some police officer in Shanghai, a district in Hong Kong. It's just inside a shopping mall. At that time, many people were singing the song of Glory to Hong Kong, but I was kicked by many police officers. We can play a few seconds of this video so that we can show the scene. Can you play? So I just explaining that I was hurted and kicked by some women, police women, and then I really don't know the reason, but they just attacked me without any warning again, so that we can stop it. We can stop it. And I just explained to some journalists what was happening at that time. We can go to the next slide. And 18. And then you can see some pictures of me that I joined some participation here and pepper sprayed by the police again. Again, we can go to 19. And then we can play this video. And I will explain a little bit more that before playing this video. And then on the 1st of May 2020, I attend just like in a shopping mall. We also were singing a song of Glory to Hong Kong in a shopping mall in Shatin district. And then at that time, some police officer came inside and they surround me. More than maybe 50 police officers surrounded me, and they asked me why I were here. And then I told them that I just want to monitor their performance or action. They said, you were blind. Unless you pretend to be blind, you could not do anything. You could not see. So I found that should be a kind of harassment. So we can take a look at the scene, and we can play a little bit, a few seconds of this video. Thank you. So that I was trying to explain what was happening at that time. So in the scene. So you can see you can notice there were a crowd here, and then we can stop here because it was a long story. But if I have time, I can explain to you more about this. I can go to the next slide. And then just showing the confrontation. This is at the scene of the shopping mall that I have mentioned here. So that this is some sort of photo. We can skip this. We can go to the next slide. 21. Participate demonstration and providing legal advice and sent. We can play this video from BBC. Thank you. As a blind people, I cannot see, so that I use my mobile phone to listen to live broadcasting from YouTube, Facebook, etc. to know what is happening. And then if I get any updated information as to the deployment of police, maybe I will announce all such information to the protesters. In the past, I believe most people in Hong Kong were very selfish. They will not care others. But since 9th of June this year, I found that we have indeed a very good relationship with all other protesters, and I feel there may be a brotherhood and sisterhood among the protesters. I just want them to think more about their legal liability. Especially, I have also raised some concern on when they take some particular action, will it damage the other's property? In fact, it may not be a good way to express their opinion. But I also want to show my passion, also want to go with them because I love these young people very much. We are not satisfied with the act to be passed by the U.S. government for Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. We also want to urge the other governments to take similar action, because we know that without the assistance, without the help of the people outside Hong Kong, we can do nothing to fight for our freedom. Okay, and we can go to the next slide, and that just illustrate what I had done in the past, so that we can 22. And then you know, sometimes I will serve that as a witness in district council, testifying what was happening in the scene, and also accused and as a witness to the brutality and the action and the wrong and illegal or unlawful action taken by police. So this is just a photo when I was a witness in Satin District Council. So we can go to 23. And then I will sometime after the demonstration, we had no right, no possibility to go on street again. We focus on online forum and discussing the situation in Hong Kong. And then there is an organization called Hong Kong Watch. The CEO is Lord Benedict Rogers, and then he, together with our former governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patten, Chris Patten, to promote those people, those young people without BNO, if either their father or mother has BNO, they should be entitled to get a BNO visa to go to UK as a permanent resident. So that I had a dialogue with Benedict Rogers and my friend Albert Chin. And then at that time, you know, Benedict Rogers is now under a warrant and then a warning by the Hong Kong police saying that he had impeached of the national security law. So we can play this video a little bit for a few seconds or 1 minute.
And it's a gray area in the sense that it's not really like something that's approved. And I want Joy to jump in if you want to comment anything on VPN use.
First of all, I'm happy to see you guys again, especially for Benedict Rogers here. I know in Hong Kong the situation is very bad, but on behalf of the younger generation, I would like to thank for your effort, especially in your works in the House of Lords, fighting for the BNO for the younger generation in Hong Kong. And actually, I have BNO, but I never use it. I'm now in Toronto, so I have the freedom. I can access any information that I want to see. Okay, and we can stop here. Situation in Hong Kong is very Thank you. Actually, we just talked about because the web page of Hong Kong Watch was banned at that time, and then so we discussed what
using VPN.
What would be the solution for this? In Hong Kong now, many people use VPN. That means virtual personal network to access any information which were abandoned by the Hong Kong government. So we just talk about this issue and hope that the situation that using VPN would not be classified as illegal. So just like China, that using VPN is illegal, but it is not the situation, I guess. In Hong Kong, using VPN is still legal, but in the future, I have no courage to say that the law will not change. So we can go to the next slide. And then, so I believe that a society with democracy is very important for us to guarantee the basic right of those people with disability and without disability, no matter whether what we can do. Maybe what I did is just very not a big deal, but every people in Hong Kong had a duty to try their best to monitor and safeguard our current system and fighting for democracy. Eventually, such movement, or if we are if we succeed, and then it will benefit all people in Hong Kong. So we can go to the last slide, the conclusion. And then politics, I'm sorry. And then also, I just want to say again that the fundamental right should be guaranteed, so that we could ensure the people with disability can express their opinion without any fear of government agents or other politicians, because some issue may be even though they are relating to disability right, but they may be very political, such as whether the government should hire a certain amount or percentage of persons with disability. It was a heated argument amongst the government officials and the society. But if the democracy is here, we can elect our own government and then try to lobby them to change the policy, but we have no chance because we do not have universal suffrage. And then we can go to the next page. And then conclusion. And then I believe that always believe that we disabled, maybe we call people with differences or persons with disabilities are able to fight for democracies, as we are still part of the community. So I guess even though maybe sometime we will be a burden in the front line of demonstration or protest, but we should try our best to endeavor to accompany them, especially for those young people, because they do not have sufficient knowledge to know what they could do or they could not do. And as a bright lawyer, I could give legal advice in the front line to them, even though maybe I will be arrested. But at the time, many people had that kind of situation. So I should not be the one to be exempt from any liability, so under their law. So this is today what I want to present. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joy. It's Kim Moffat. I've joined again. Thank you very much for that compelling story of political engagement and personal commitment. It was very moving. I would like to take the pleasure of introducing Moon from Are You Stand With Hong Kong. Moon will start out our discussion by responding to Joy's talk. I'll introduce Moon though. Moon is a representative of Ryerson Stand With Hong Kong, which is a student-led group aiming to promote and raise awareness of pro-democracy movements in Hong Kong and surrounding Chinese politics in the academic community. On a personal level, I know of Moon's tireless work as an educator, an advocate, and a creator. A very creative, engaged individual who has been important to us at the university. So Moon, would you like to respond?
Hi, everyone. Hello, my name is Moon, and thank you, Ken, for introducing me here today. I think just watching that talk that Joy just gave, it did hit home on a very personal note, not only just because, you know, we're engaging on the topic of you know, social activism, but more specifically, the kind of role that each of us as an individual could play into a big collective movement like this. I think also coming in from Hong Kong, a lot of the societal issues that were kind of brought up in Joy's talk was very enlightening and very kind of just like a hit to the face kind of a moment as well. Just like that, like I'd like to personally address Joy here because I grew up in Hong Kong as well, and the one thing there was growing up, it always kind of felt like vulnerable communities, such as people who struggle with disabilities, people who struggle with mental health issues, and you know, we have the lower class people. These are communities that we just kind of gloss over and neglect, and very much so too often the government treats them as these invisible people, as if like they just don't really exist in our collective core society. And it's a shame that you know, our government doesn't do more for us to work together as a cohesive society to, you know, bring each other up and support each other in a lot of ways. So yeah, like I don't know, like I guess it's a pretty personal and a pretty emotional presentation that I just watched Joy give there. So thank you so much for your amazing presentation. Here over at our group, Are You Stand With Hong Kong, we're a student group that obviously, like Ken mentioned before, we work to kind of promote and kind of just talk about the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. And one thing that I think the presentations that I've given previously and the one that I just watched Joy give right now, a very common ground we saw there is that prior to everything that kind of blew up in 2019, we kind of saw Hong Kong as a city, as a culture of very unemotional and very just kind of keep it going and just very individualistic kind of a culture that we have there. And that view personally for me as well entirely changed after what kind of happened in 2019 there. So yeah, but personally, I'd like to just ask Joy here. So as you know, as we a lot of different groups here strive to kind of promote the awareness of what's going on in Hong Kong and surrounding Chinese politics and whatnot. How do you think we're able to bring in more conversations about these vulnerable communities, about people with disabilities? How do we bring them into, the topic of discussion when we talk about our own kinds of activism?
Actually, I did see many persons with disability. They did attend, participate in the demonstration and the protest, such as when I was in Shanghai district. I was helped by a totally deaf person, first aider, and then he gave me some comfort. And then, although we could not communicate with each other, but I knew that he was deaf, and then he was trying to let me know that I should climb down. I should not be afraid. So that I think that they had their role. And I also saw many people using electronic wheelchair to navigate in the scene. And some of them were protesters, and some of them were disabled journalists. So with everybody, no matter whether you are an adult, a child, a person with disability, an elderly, and a student, and no matter whether you are in whatever position, I think many people can contribute themselves for the movement, so that maybe next time we can invite or have more conversation with those persons with disability who participate in the movement. So I saw many of them, not just me. I'm just one of them only. So I hope that we could engage those persons with this disability to have a social change, especially not only to a democracy movement, but also to wipe off the stigma of being a disabled one. We believe everybody has its own talents. So I really don't think that we should negate any of them.
Yeah, and I think this is just like another thought that I had while I was watching the presentation. The one thing is that I think with what happened in Hong Kong since 2019 till now, everybody has had a different kind of approach. Everybody has had a different experience with specifically, either being very close to home or being very far away and still feeling very emotionally connected. But like me and you, we probably have had very different experiences here too, but there's some common stuff like that feeling of actually still being connected together and the identity of being a Hong Konger. I think these are things that felt like it was hard to hold on to, but now seems more important than ever to be holding on to these identities and these things that is constantly being negated. These are things that are like, it's not just the identity of being a Hong Konger. You have things like our culture and our language and all that kind of stuff that are constantly being attacked. It's being under fire right now in Hong Kong, and yeah, I hope that we can still be able to hold on to all these things and be able to promote them as much as we can. Here, I think we're very fortunate to be here on the lands of Canada, where we're able to still celebrate and just enjoy the freedoms that we can have still here. So yeah, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. I want to add something that just like those indigenous, we have the duty to preserve their own culture, own language. But now in Hong Kong, we people in Hong Kong use a traditional Chinese, and we speak Cantonese. But the government is now trying to remove our culture, our identity as a Hong Kongers, and they just frame that us as a local Chinese rather than Hong Kongers. We have our self-belonging of being a Hong Konger rather than a just normal Chinese. I will not deny I'm a Chinese, but I would say I am a Hong Kong Chinese or Hong Konger, so that preserving one's culture is very important for those people who are in minority. So just like the people in Hong Kong in comparing with the whole mainland China.
Okay, I think we just had a Q&A question come in.
Yes.
It was just a couple minutes ago.
It's TK joining the conversation. Thank you so much, Moon, for giving us your direct experience as well, and for the work that you're doing at the university on this important issue. I'm going to open it up to the rest of our audience at this time. And while not canceling you out, Moon, if you have some other comments and questions that you want to add to the conversation, that's very welcome. But I'm going to expand it out to let other folks who are joining us here today have an opportunity. So you'll see that in the Q&A section, this is where you can type in your question. And we already have a question that's come from the audience, Joy, and that is kind of connected to something that you were just speaking about. You talked about the fact that there were people of many different abilities who were participating fully in the protests, in organizing and so on. And we have one of our participants who has said that they are also a person with disability, and they said, I'm curious what you did to keep yourself safe during the protests. They said, my physical safety is something that keeps me from participating in protests. So they wanted to hear from you to elaborate a little bit more on the aspect of, overcoming that fear and about safety.
Actually, I got the blessings from my God because I'm blind. So actually, many people are aware of seeing the face of police and their gesture and their action when they had their guns, the pistol, or their pepper spray. But actually, as far as I could not see any, I would not be afraid because I could just hear their song, their voice, so that I have my song, I heard my voice, so I can do as they can. And sometimes maybe somebody will say that I will just abuse my disability because I used my blindness to help those people, especially I will give this an example. Because of my blindness, I could not see. I will not be afraid of being hurted unless I was hurted without warning, just like they pepper sprayed on me. And then I just help those people, young people who are blocked by the police. I emphasize that they were my friend. They just accompanied me to see what was happening, so that I asked them and the police to let them go. And then I was in the Polytechnic University, which was surrounded by more than 5,000 police officers. But at that time, I was lucky because I could help two young people went to the ambulance and then they got saved. And then I would like also sometimes, as I was blind, they have no way to deal with me because I will argue with them. I'm sorry, I really don't know whether you're a police officer or not. You said you were police officer, but I could not see. So how I know? They said, oh, I can present my police appointment card to me. Oh, I'm sorry, I could not see. And then I have some weapon. I have a gun. Oh, I'm sorry. Robert has also got a gun. So how could I know? So I have some argument with those police officers, so that just to give time for those young people to leave the scene. And because of my blindness, also I have more courage to do what I want. So in fact, I did not concern my own safety, but the others concerned my own safety a lot. So sometimes I was forced to leave the scene, and then was, I would say the term forced imprisoned in somewhere because they want to protect me. So but without eyesight would be an advantage for me during the demonstration.
Very interesting. Thank you. I'm going to continue encouraging our audience to type in your questions for Joy in the Q&A. And I do want to ask you, this is Kike speaking, Joy. I do want to ask you about the political situation, but before I go there, I would like to ask you a question as your experience of being a lawyer. I'm a lawyer too, but I call myself a recovering lawyer now because I also, like you, I was attracted to law and became a lawyer because of discrimination and violence that I saw in my community. And I thought, I need to get into this arena to really to fight for justice. And that's what we're sort of culturally trained to believe, that, justice happens in the space of the law. We talk about the rule of law and this whole notion of people being treated fairly with equality. But I'm sure, like you, we kind of come to understand that the law itself is very political as well. And so I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about how you currently think of the law and yourself as a lawyer, as an advocate, and what kind of transformation might have happened from you going to watch that movie that really influenced you and gave you inspiration to then finding yourself, trying to inform others of their rights, even as your own rights are being violated. So I kind of wonder what that has done to your attitude, your beliefs, what you think the possibilities are really of law as the place to advance rights.
Actually, Canada is a very liberal country, and then we have in Ontario we have our Human Rights Code, and then in Canada we have our Human Rights Act. Maybe the Constitution is part on the Charter of Human Rights in 1982, and then we have 1985. Human Rights Act, we have AODA 2005, and we have Accessible Canada and 2019. So because why we need that kind of law? Because with democracy, with freedom of expression, we can elect our own leader, no matter whether we like our current one or not, but we have a chance to elect our own one. But in Hong Kong, the chief executive, just ranking like a prime minister in Hong Kong, is not duly elected by the people in Hong Kong. They were so-called elected by those people appointed by the Chinese government. And so then for the legislature, we do not have universal suffrage. Just in the past, just half of them are directly elected from the people of Hong Kong. But now they changed the system, and then only 1/3, 2/9 of the legislative councillors are elected by the whole population in Hong Kong. So if we do want to change a law to protect those persons with disability, it will be a very, very difficult task. Just like we have our Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, 2008. But if we want the government to have its local legislation on this convention, we have no power. We do not have enough strength to persuade, to lobby the government, because they will not listen to us, because they are not elected. They are just appointed by the Chinese government. So this is the problem. I want a more systematic protection rather than having to follow the will of some leaders. If they want to do, okay, they will change the law. But if they do not want, okay, they will suspend the law. So we are now, the chief executive always use emergency regulation ordinance, CAP, Chapter 241 in Hong Kong, to suspend many regulations, such as to having people from mainland China do not require to have a license to practice medicine. So they do not need any license to practice as a nurse or etc. They do not need any driving license to drive in Hong Kong. So it is quite ridiculous. So I want a whole system of law, duly the people in Hong Kong are duly protected. For the movie, it was a very interesting movie that saying that the lawyer, the barrister, started by Andy Lau. He did not have any parents, but at that time, when he studied after graduating from law school in UK, he came back from Hong Kong in 1960s. But her mother, without her knowledge, was accused to murder somebody, and then he represented him in the trial. At the end, he discovered that the accused was his mother. So this is a very embarrassing situation that for him to decide whether he still wants to go ahead, because there are some rules regulating that barristers should not have conflict of interest with his client, especially under the administration of law. So at that time, I found that law would be very useful if I can. I know that I just observe how he act, how he present in the movie. And if I could be given a chance to be a lawyer, I think I would like him to do many stuff for those people who are in an unprivileged group. So I just want to do that. So that this is the feeling and the motivation that leading me to be a lawyer. Eventually, I was a lawyer, but I was a lawyer in a place without any law in Hong Kong. Why not?
Yes, I think in your answer, you've given us a clear connection between the need for democracy, the need to have a multiplicity of different voices, with different experiences that can bring to bear on how the laws are shaped, so that we can have that, what you called an attack on systematic or systemic discrimination. We need to attack that through law. But we have another question that's kind of related from Eliza Chandler, a professor in the School of Disability Studies at X University, who is also one of our sponsors for today. And Eliza says, following the comments that you made at the end of your talk and Moon's comments, could you elaborate on how the fight for democracy contributes to global disability rights movements. She also says that she's curious to know if there are ways disability activists in Canada can work in solidarity with disability activists in Hong Kong.
Actually, I will take your time to introduce a section that I will have a public conversation with a lawyer, a law professor in Oxford of York University called David Labowski. He is a blind lawyer in Canada. I will exchange our opinion in relation to the tactics and techniques in fighting for disability rights. I think we could not, we could just change our own place first. It is as the first step, and then we can try to spread our tactics and skills to others' place, so that I want a consolidated power, not just for our own place, but we want to change the role, especially in relation to the respect of those persons with disability. We are abled, but not abled, but we have some differences with others. But those differences may be an advantage for us to attract people, for us to make them understand more about us, not just requesting somebody else to represent us on these issues. So we think that we should do by ourselves. And sometimes we can combine the two, one, asking those people, acting on behalf of those who are not able to say, to express their own wishes, but we can do by ourselves. So this is my thought.
Thank you. Yes, an important place to begin is to have more in-depth dialogue and exchange our experiences and be able to share strategies as you've indicated. I'm going to call on Winnie Ng, who has a question for you. Winnie, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Joy, as you know, our former Chief Justice in Canada, Beverly McLaughlin, sits on the Hong Kong Final Court of Appeal as an invited judge, right? And we have learned that in the past few months, the Australian judge, and then today in the Globe and Mail, two of the UK judges who were appointed to the Hong Kong Final Court of Appeal have resigned on the basis that the system that Hong Kong, the judicial system, is not independent anymore. And I'm wondering what's your comment and how we as Canadians should engage in asking former Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin to resign.
Actually, I know the present Chief Justice term in Hong Kong. Actually, I have some cases at the time he was the trial judge in the High Court. I really don't know whether the Canadian group can make pressure on the former Chief Justice of Canada to resign or to do something in relation to the appointment or the continuation of her task as a non-permanent judge of the Court of Final Appeal in Hong Kong. But actually, you know, there should be some restrictions or some special rules on those former judges and in Canada to sit as a non-permanent judge in Hong Kong. I guess if a place now has no real rule of law, whether sitting as a as a non-permanent judge in Hong Kong is still appropriate for them, because this is not her own issue. This is the image of the Canada, of the whole Canadians. So I really hope that those guys who are foreigner from the Hong Kong perspective, still acting as a judge in Hong Kong, should consider whether their action, their ruling, or their judgment to state in the court of Hong Kong is still appropriate for them to do so. I guess we Canadians should do more and should write to the press and should urge the government or the judiciary to monitor, especially if we could not ask them to resign promptly, we should ask them to monitor the ruling, whether her ruling is compatible with the real Hong Kong law or the international regulation applicable to Hong Kong. So that is what I think.
It's KK again. Thank you, Joy. We have a few minutes. We have about 7 minutes before the conclusion of our event today. So if anybody has any other questions, you can sneak them in here right now. While we're seeing if anyone else has a question, I wonder if, Joy, you could tell us a little bit about what is your understanding of the situation of the political prisoners who you spoke about during your presentation. What is your understanding now of what the current state of the pro-democracy movement is? You said at the beginning of the talk that you don't have a lot of confidence in what is happening right now, but I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your knowledge of what's happening now and what could possibly be some things that do give you some hope.
Actually, I would talk about our political prisoner in Hong Kong. I know more than myself, my friends, more than 50 friends are now in jail, and some of them are law professors, and some are lawyers, some are doctors, and many. And then under many of them are arrested under the national security law in Hong Kong, together with the former colonial legislation, such as under Section 9 and Section 10 of the Crimes Ordinance relating to seditions. And then, so under the course of Hong Kong, they said that under the national security law and all other local legislation relating to national security, there should be a strict threshold for bail, even though they have sort of presumption of innocence. So under Article 42 of the national security law, there should be a strict threshold for the people in the application for bail. So unless the judge has sufficient grounds to believe that the criminal suspect will not continue to act or to commit any act endangering national security. What do you mean by continue to commit an act endangering national security? That means it is presumed that they have done that act, but not continue. So it is quite interesting. It is self-contradicting and controversial that in one hand they said, oh, they had presumption of innocence, but on the other hand they said, oh, unless judge has satisfied or has sufficient grounds to believe that they will not continue. So this is unreasonable and illogical, but the courts say that, the word continue should not be rather referring to the guilt of the suspect. So, but without further explanation. So I really don't know why the government will accept that kind of explanation or the judge. But, the Hong Kong judiciary is now under great pressure by the Chinese government, because if the Chinese government is not satisfied with the judgment made by the judge, they will ask the Communist Party's newspaper or the National Security Bureau in Hong Kong to take action to overrule the judgment of the court. So I really don't know the future of the criminal or the political criminal suspects. What will they face? They had been in custody, especially for the 47 incidents that more than 47 persons were arrested under the national security law because they just participated in the preliminary or initial election for the legislature. So I really don't know. They have been in custody since 28th of February 2021, more than 1 year. So I don't know what would they face in the future. But for my hope, I always think that there should be a room for improvement. There should be a hope. We continue to fight for freedom, to do what we want, not because we have hope, but because we continue to fight for our own interests. Then we have hope. The other way around, not because of hope, we continue. Because we continue, we have hope.
Thank you so much, Joy. That was very, very powerful. And I want to thank you for coming and taking the time to talk to us about your knowledge, your expertise, your experiences, the bravery that you've shown in fighting for your values, your convictions at great personal cost. You've given us a moving example of what it means to act on your convictions and to confront state violence and to continue to believe that it is important at all times to speak out for human rights and to use all of the tools that are at our disposal in order to advance our struggles for human rights. You've shown us that your blindness has actually been an asset to you in being able to confront a repressive system with courage and with fortitude, and that all of us have a place, regardless of our abilities, regardless of our age, the fact that we are present and want a society where everyone is treated equally and where we have the freedom of expression, the freedom of movement, freedom of assembly, all the freedoms that people have been fighting for so hard for so many years now in Hong Kong can be realized, because those are shared values across humanity. So I want to thank you so much for your presentation to us. We look forward to watching out for other events that you will be participating in, including the one that you mentioned with David Lepofsky at York University.
Yeah.
This time, I'd also like to thank Moon for coming on and doing giving us your reflections and reminding us, as you pointed out, that having that strong identity is not something that can be easily taken away. Continuing to organize, continuing to be in solidarity with people in Hong Kong and people across the world who support these movements is extremely important. And Moon, you also offer us a hopeful example of students remaining active and engaged and informed. So thank you very much. We also want to at this time thank the Toronto Association for Democracy in China, which is our community partner for today's gathering. And we want to thank the X-University School of Disability Studies, along with RU Stand with Hong Kong. We want to thank the Jack Layton Chair, as well as the other folks who helped put this event together and help make us run it smoothly. Keegan, Salman, Sarah, Darren, Lorena. And of course, we also want to say a big thanks to Toronto Sign Language Interpreter Service, who've helped us all throughout this event, Rogue and Emma. And we also want to say thanks to AI Media Captioners for helping us make the event accessible. So that brings our event today to conclusion. And we want to thank all of you for your participation. And a special thanks to you, Joy, for sharing today. Thank you.
Thank you.